All right, then let's proceed. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We have two guests tonight. We have Charlie McDonald and we have Chris Fowles. And because we have a quorum with three of us, we can go ahead and do minutes of past meeting. There were two sets of minutes. One was from January. And did everybody have a chance to read those? There was just a brief, a little bit. Did you have a chance to read them?
Yes.
And does
Yes.
anybody have any comments or any corrections of any kind? Hearing none, does anybody want to move to accept as written?
Yes.
Okay, Diana moves to accept. And do I hear a second?
Janet, yes.
Thank you. There's two. Any other discussion? Nope. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So those are accepted. Those are the minutes of
April
January.
just said she forgot and she's about to sign in.
Oh, good. Okay. Then let's just move to the minutes of March 5th, which was the last lengthy meeting, where, let's see, it was me, April, Rini, and Janet were representing the committee, and Chris was present, Diana was absent, and Charlie was absent. Any comment on those minutes, that people that were there, were they okay?
I thought we just approved those minutes.
You did the ones from January.
Oh, the January ones were already approved.
Well, maybe it was the December.
No, I think we went by them.
You know what? I'm confusing these minutes. Bear with me, because we had some, you're right. We just approved the March minutes. The Master Plan Implementation Committee had a dangling set of minutes, and I was thinking it was those. Forget it. We already approved the March minutes. Fine. So approved as written. Very good. Okay. So let me see here. I want to go back to this and go to Word here. Okay. Here's the agenda. Can people see that again?
Yep.
Okay. So let me give you some updates on old business. I'll repeat what I said a moment ago. I've asked Ed Gibson to give me a status of where we are with the Open Space Committee becoming a regular town committee. He's going to put that on the select board agenda and get back to us. So that's all I know. The next is B, the status of the open space and recreation plan. The last meeting had to be canceled. That was sort of in the beginning of all of this social distancing and inability to meet in person. He had not yet set up a Zoom account for the town, so that meeting was canceled. His plan is, now that that Zoom account is set up, that he will be rescheduling that. So we are still in process working on that. So there's no update. I'm going to tell you that the next item, which we can just briefly mention, is Celebrate Southampton. If you recall, that was brought up a couple of meetings ago. Last year, the Open Space Committee, i.e. Diana and me, and Concom shared one of the small booths. I did attend one planning meeting of the Celebrate Southampton. And I'm going to ask Chris, do you know what's going on with that? Are they putting their plans on hold completely, or do you know, Chris?
Not officially yet. I mean, hasn't been a meeting now in a while until we had this sort of shut down. We were having regular meetings, and actually the planning was going ahead very well. It was much farther ahead than wherever we were last year. So it's kind of a shame that things are on hold now, but so far they haven't done anything yet to make any postponement of date or anything like that. But there have not been any meetings that I haven't heard. Unless I can double check, but I don't think I've heard anything about holding a virtual meeting. But I wouldn't be surprised if in early May they would do that at least.
Okay. All right. Good.
What is the tentative date for it?
It's
I believe
scheduled.
it's the 13th and 14th or 14th and 15th of August.
That's right.
It's whatever that Saturday, Sunday is.
I'm looking it up. It's the 14th, 15th, Friday and
Okay.
Saturday. It's not
Right.
Sunday, just Friday, Saturday.
Friday, Saturday, I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I was
Um,
going to start with a supper at the church and a few other things. Yeah.
Oh,
I
boy.
only attended one meeting, but I've been looking at the minutes, and I will say, it's an energetic group, isn't it, Chris? And they really,
Yeah, no, they've got lots of ideas. It's kind of like, or we got to kind of narrow these down, I think, or it'll be a little too much. But we'll
Right.
see where it goes. I hope we don't have to cancel it altogether. But
April's here. Hey, April.
Hey, Cindy, sorry.
Don't
I lost
apologize.
track of time.
It's okay. It's all right. Good. We just did minutes, and we just had a couple of updates, basically just saying we don't know what's happening on a few things. So Celebrate Southampton, we're not sure about. Let me just ask the committee in general, if this takes place, Celebrate Southampton, which occurs, the Saturday event is at Conant Park, does the committee in general want to try to have some kind of physical presence there if we can? How does everybody feel about that?
I think that's a good idea, but I think we should do something, like we should have some goal that we're working on or whatever to let people know, like not just like we're here and here's
Well,
an
the
apple.
theme isn't it arts in Southampton this year? Is that the theme, Chris?
Yeah, it is.
yes,
Uh-huh.
So we had talked about approaching, you and I actually, Diane, had mentioned that Anne Valiant is expert in doing little stone mosaics or something, and we could
Yeah,
have
yeah.
I haven't done anything with that since we last spoke about it. So the answer is we should do something consistent with the theme of the Celebrate Southampton.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be kind of fun to do like a scavenger hunt or some kind of game where it could be interactive.
Yeah, that's
Okay. How can we make it sound like arts?
Well, we could hide, photos of or artistic representations of nature, something like that.
Okay.
Or we could make collages of the different areas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, April, you sound a little bit like you are holding marbles in your mouth. I don't know what's going on, but
It's my internet connection is awful, so
okay.
sorry.
Okay, that's all. As long as you are okay.
Not eating marbles.
So why don't we seriously give some thought to this? We don't even know what's going to happen, so we don't want to spend a whole lot of time planning right this minute. But
Right.
between now and the next meeting, I'd like everybody to be really thinking about this. So in fact, if it is going to happen, we can then more actively plan it when we meet next time. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
yeah, that sounds good. And
All
would
right.
you guys? I know last year you were trying to think about doing maybe a hike on the following day on Sunday. Would that be an idea again if trails are
Fine with
open?
me. We
We
did a
did
hike.
do that, but nobody came. It was just me and Cynthia.
We could definitely do that anyway, anyway, in terms of
I mean-
Celebrate Southampton.
Another idea, just throw it out, is some kind of art hike. Somehow, if we, I don't know, if we focused on one area, walked around one area, but somehow, could art include like poetry, or is it graphic art?
I have two suggestions, okay?
Good.
One of which is in the last 10 years on my property, I have created what I call a poet's corner because I've been doing a lot of reading and literature, and I have helped with North Country Landscapes, and we have taken certain books and ideas for certain books in terms of stone, wood, and plants to create a series of sort of areas in the corner of my property here. And I can probably take some pictures of this and share them. So that's one thing that would be available for a tour. The other is my former partner in North Country Landscapes is now in charge of the grounds of Look Park, and that's an LLC, and they do a lot of work with concerts. In addition to that, they're setting up some areas where some local artist is going to be setting up displays. And that kind of information could be shared also. So those are some of the ideas that I had. That's all.
Well, in terms of the first one you mentioned, the Poets Corner, how extensive, could something like that be done on one of our lands? Like
Well, right now it goes for about 150 feet, and it has seasonable plants. Like there's a Emily Dickinson section that has full of white flowers in season. And then I also have Moby Dick, and I have some stone that represents the whale and the destruction of the ship Pequod. But in any case, I can take some pictures of these things and share them with you so you get a better idea of what I'm talking about.
Sounds really great. I don't think you're inviting us to go to your lands, though, are you? You don't want we don't want the public on your lands.
I don't mind them coming if they'd like to, but again, I'd probably think of a display at the Conan Park, which just describes it, and then invite people to make contact with me and come up and look at it. Something like that.
Idea. All right,
Do it
let's
in
think about that.
smaller groups. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to, there's a place in Maine, right outside Wells in York, Maine, called Mount Agamenticus. You might have been there. And they have a beautiful path that goes to the top of the mountain. It's not really much of a mountain, but, and they do a storybook, you know? So every
cool.
120, 50 yards, they, have another picture related. And it's very excellent focus on a story that's child or youth focused.
Yeah.
Really good. It would take some work, but it's kind of the same concept of bringing in. But we could think about that. Let's work on that and think of some
Okay,
more.
I'll pull up some pictures and communicate directly with you, Cindy. Okay.
Oh, okay, that's fine. All right, great.
And
So
this
let's.
Janet, can you hear me, Janet? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Janet. Go ahead.
Okay, I just wonder how can we also incorporate children or students from the Norris or Boy Scouts or something in this and see what they might want to contribute.
That's wonderful, Janet. I think from the one meeting I attended, there's a big involvement with the youth already. Norris School and Hampshire Regional is already involved. I don't recall the Scouts, but I know you have a very strong link to the Scouts.
I do.
Can you be thinking about that between now and the next meeting, how we could include Scouts in the open space or, visiting lands or something? That would be terrific.
Yes. And there was one school teacher a few months ago when we had school at the Norris who really wanted to get his kids involved in conservation and in the town and stuff like that. I'll look back at my minutes of the community preservation and see who that man was and see if he could get his kids involved. So that's just my contribution. I will do that.
Okay. What's, Diana, what's the name of that teacher that teaches writing? Is it Kevin?
Kevin, I can't remember.
Hodgson or
Hodgson, Mr. Hodgson, that's it.
That might be the one that I was thinking about too. I'll look back in my minutes for the CPA and see what his name was.
The only thing I will say is, because I have a couple of grandchildren that, are elementary school aged, the teachers are struggling, maybe struggling is the word, maybe it's not the word, just trying to meet the basic criteria for education right now, doing it in a whole different way. And they may not want to rattle the boat between now and the end of school year. I don't know. I'm just thinking of that in general. But it's a good
They're very
idea to,
stressed out. Yeah, okay.
yeah, but I think it's a great idea. All right.
I'll
let's
let you
move-
know.
Just one
Let's
last thing,
move
the
on.
plan has been to get the students involved at both schools, to get the students involved in the art exhibition stuff. So the art teachers are already somewhat involved in planning for the student involvement there from that
Excellent.
level, but
Okay.
not the scouts per se. Yeah.
All right, let's keep thinking about it anyway. And then we'll know a little more maybe whether it's even going to happen in the next meeting or so.
Yeah.
Okay, quick update, letter D, pollinator garden on Pomeroy Meadow Road. This was on our agenda several times, in the last many months. In the meantime, I did email the water supervisor, Tom Gahn, and he brought the question to the water commissioners meeting as to whether or not we could have a pollinator garden in a small portion of the space on Pomeroy Meadow Road that, as you know, is open and cleared. It's got a little tiny parking lot that was newly acquired. Does everybody know what I'm talking about? That
Yes.
space, okay. So Chris and I went down and looked at it and kind of Chris had great ideas about where a garden could be located. The next step was to check back with Randall, who said he would help turn over the soil or something, and I did. And he said, sure, but not now. He gave me the sense this is really not a major priority right now. Probably isn't, but that's where it stands. So he's going to get back to me. The limitation is that they have strong restrictions on whether any kind of fertilizer can be used there. It is the water recharge area. And that's any kind of fertilizer. And the last I knew, and I did re-email him, Chris, was that included even composted organic material and a little bit of composted manure. They said no. So
Okay.
it could limit what we can do. And well, we could do it, but won't have the benefit of, extra organic material on there.
Yeah.
So that's the story on that.
Until we kind of put a shovel in the ground there, I have no idea what that soil really even looks like either. It's, it
If
could
you
be
think
very sandy or it could be a
helpful to
clay.
test it for acid level or, the pH of the soil, I have a kit. on that.
I hadn't even gotten that far. I was just thinking whether it was sandy or clay.
Oh, right. Don't know. Well, anyway,
Rocky.
mossy.
Or what? Mossy.
Rocky.
Yeah, over into the trees, it's definitely mossy. Yeah.
She said rocky, actually, rocky.
Oh, rocky. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, there was some gravelly stuff over near the trees, wasn't there?
Yeah,
On the back
yeah.
end of it.
Yep.
But anyway, that's just where that stands right now.
Well, I would just say that if we did the proper research, and really found out what would grow well there when we know what the soil is, we might not need fertilizer. There should be natural things that would grow.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Well, maybe Cindy, if you have a kit to test the soil, that might be worth the first step. And then we could see, because, I've got various plants here that I could, they're not, well, they're ones that certainly attract the bees and the butterflies and so forth. I'm not totally positive if they all fall under the pollinator category, but I certainly have plants that I could divide and seeds that I've saved from last year that I could, add to the collection here too.
all right,
So
well then
we
I'll
didn't
try
have
to
buy
get that
stuff.
pH. I'll get that pH kit out there. In the meantime, Chris, do you still have that that sheet? You were gonna scan it in?
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So that we had a couple lists. Remember, you and I went to that program, Diana, on.
yes,
on-
yes.
So I
And
shared,
Xiaoxin went.
sorry,
And Xiaoxin went as well.
Oh,
Our Chinese
exactly.
friend.
I forgot about that. Yep, she was there. Okay, moving on. Update on Southampton Friends of Open Space. So those of you that were present just prior to the opening of this meeting know that I got a text from the chairperson, Dave Sullivan. He is going to call me around 7:30 or so tonight and give me an update. So I don't know the status of that. I know Diana, you just want to mention, you went to that meeting several weeks ago?
Yeah, I went to, I'm not, well, I guess it was a meeting of the Friends of Open Space.
The board.
Is it the board?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They were meeting to go over logos, which the fifth graders had submitted for their organization, art logos with nature themes. And I think they were a little disappointed. They only got about 12 or so out of all the students. And I think they were planning to put them up at the library and people could vote on them. But again, that sort of thing is all on hold. So yeah, that's
Yep.
I went because it's my push for benches. I hit up all the organizations in town to donate a bench to the Manhattan Meadows restoration, and they said they would, but they didn't vote on it officially. So that was that.
Okay. So as far as I know, their priorities included finding a logo, but also filing the 501c3 application. I think Amanda was going to help them with that, Amanda Kemp, and also developing a bank account and having a post box and all those things in order to transfer the money that's earmarked, being currently held at Kestrel, earmarked specifically for Southampton. And I think there's probably about $1,000 in that as their seed money. And it's true, a lot of initiatives are on hold right now, but you know, it's pretty important that we see them start developing a way to access all the people in town and excite them about open space and become a friend of open space and be a communication network and all of that. I don't know where that stands at all. They were such an eager board to get together. Charlie, you were at that first meeting at the library.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think you were there, Chris, weren't you? And so, were you there, Chris? Can't remember. Janet, you were there.
Yes, I was.
Janet was there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I have to give you another report after I talk to Dave and see where that stands. And let's hope the energy is still there and happening behind. Did you say something, April?
No.
Oh, okay. Next on the list, status of Mass Trails Grant. What's going on with that, Diana?
Nothing. No word. I think it's not due till June or July.
Okay.
The award. We won't hear until then.
Okay.
I did ask Ed to get the bidding documents ready just in case. I don't really understand that, but Marla told me it's important that he be ready to act on that because we will need, if we get the grant, we will need to move quickly. But he didn't reply, so I'll try again.
Yeah, please try again because he didn't reply to an email from me the other day. And so being the aggressive pain in the neck that I can be sometimes, I called him and he said that he was having email issues. So call him.
The town email was down for a couple of days last week.
Okay.
Okay.
So my recommendation is you call him. I did email him yesterday and he did get back to me. So I don't know, Diana, if it got lost in the.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the next thing, which is good, we're only up at 1:30 here, is to talk about the generation of lands of, let's see here, I want to reduce this. Lands for priority. Now, in our current, not yet updated, open space and recreation plan, there is some documentation of lands of interest. And I was just trying to bring up that those maps and I cannot do it. If anybody goes, you can access that plan by going through the website of PVPC. and that stands for Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. And you can access the entire document. It's Southampton Open Space and Recreation Plan Update 2012. And around pages 48 through 56 or so, there is some information in there about lands of interest. And then Charlie, you shared with me a document from a while back that actually you said wasn't part of any kind of publication.
Yes.
But was another document of lands. And then of course we had this map that I gave everybody a couple meetings ago, several meetings ago, which was given to us as a, it's a priority map. Diana and I talked a little while ago. I talked a little bit to April, I think, about this too. April shared with me her copy of the assessor's map, and I made a photocopy of that. We know we have lots and lots and lots of lands in our town. We know lots of them have minimal or medium or high level conservation already in place. In order to really kind of get on the ball, I wonder if one of the things we could do in this meeting is just to sort of shout out where you think, just because of your knowledge of the town, where you think we should be listing certain lands. By way of that, I'll tell you that we learned that there is a large parcel of 230 something acres currently listed as for sale by Jones Realty. Is that who it was? Jones and whatever it's called?
Jones, yeah.
And that's located on 291 Fulmer Road. It's actually a combination of parcels, which gives them some road access. Do you want to mention that at all, April? You want to mention that parcel up there, what you know of it?
I don't know if you can hear me that well,
We can.
but it's on the assessor records as 138 acres, I think.
183.
They've done some calculations and say that GPS has more acreage. There's a barn on the property and it's 1.1 million. I don't know much about it other than that.
Whose property is it?
Smith, is it Jason Smith, I think?
Justin.
Justin Smith.
And
one.
it's in chapter land, so therefore it will come up. And I know the assessor, Martha Leamy, has it on her radar screen that if for some reason there was a sale on that and there's an interest in converting it to, for other uses besides chapter status, then it will, the town will have the right of first refusal. Now that means if it sells for 1.1 acres or somebody makes an offer, 1.1 million, I meant to say,
Oof.
That's a lot of money. Will the town want it? Don't know. It's beautiful land though, isn't it? It's way up there near the watershed. It's not far from the Tycarmody Reservoir. I did drive up there, not much to see. I couldn't even see the barn really.
Is it a paved road all the way up there?
No, it's Fulmer turns into dirt.
Good. Yep.
Well, we learned about this with an email from Mark Walmsley at Kestrel. The realtor had contacted Kestrel, and so then Mark asked, do we know anything about this, and we really didn't, except what April was able to find out from the assessor. But then I asked Mark last week, are you guys interested or anything? He didn't answer. And it was also suggested, just in informal conversations, that we contact Holyoke, either Mayor Alex Morse or water commissioners there, and ask them, because it does abut Holyoke land, and they have expressed interest. I think Cindy found this document that says they are interested in preserving their watershed of the reservoir. So we thought maybe maybe they would be interested in preserving it, but we haven't done anything because A, if Kestrel were interested, that would be nice to know, and B, if Holyoke owns it, we don't have access, but at least it would be preserved. So I don't know what people think about that.
Yeah, does anybody have any comment on what this committee might do at this point? I mean, that's why we formed this committee, was to get a little proactive about some of these large parcels.
Well, I would think that those follow up on those two, Kestrel and Holyoke, to see exactly what they are thinking of the project.
Mm-hmm.
And you also, if you're getting onto a stage 2 there, you'd have to go to CPC and see how their funds would be applicable versus other commitments they have.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
Or grants, big grants.
Big grants.
Yeah.
Cindy, I think Reni's trying to join in.
Oh, don't see it yet. Where do you see that?
I see your phone.
Isn't that Janet?
No, it says Reni's phone.
Reni's phone.
Let me see.
I'm not sure.
I don't see it yet.
In the participant list, it's listed as Reni's iPhone.
You see me?
Oh,
Yep,
there you
yeah.
are. Wonderful.
There you are.
Yeah, I couldn't join into my computer, but I did my phone, so now I'm on my computer.
Oh, great.
So let me hang up on the other.
Oh, good, because then we have feedback if you have both.
Yeah. How's
Okay.
everybody doing?
Good.
Good, good.
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 Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Now I've lost your picture.
Yeah, I see you guys. It's the weird thing. I lose, like at the select board meeting the other night, every once in a while, I just lose everybody.
Yep,
Okay.
you're there now. You're good.
Okay, so let me just tell you who we have here, Rini. Number one, we're glad you're here. We've got Charlie McDonald and Chris Fowles, and then April, Diana, Janet Brown by phone, but she can see us.
Okay.
And you. And
Okay,
me.
great.
We have a full committee right now. That's great. We've done a lot of business so far, just kind of updates
Good.
on things. I don't think we need to necessarily go back over it. If you've seen the
No.
agenda, and if you have any questions, you can let us know.
Yep.
But we're now moving right to generating the lands of interest. And we are talking about, we'll quickly summarize a parcel that's actually more than one parcel joined together that, am I right? It's more than 200 acres, April? I think it's, the base parcel is only 183, but there's more acreage connected with that, right? I thought it was like 230 something altogether.
I know, it's been a couple of weeks since I looked at it, so it's off my brain, but they claim that it's 238 by GPS.
Oh.
The town records aren't always accurate in terms of, a survey. So it's less than 200 at the assessor's office.
Okay.
And the owner did get a letter from Martha reminding him of his obligation under Chapter 61.
Okay. Excellent. It's 61, right? It's not 61A or B, as far as you know.
61.
Okay. All right. So, Rini, it's listed with a realtor for $1.1 million.
Wow.
And it's up there, and it abuts the Holyoke water lands, the watershed lands of Tycarmody Reservoir.
Oh, wow.
291 Fomer Road. The owner is a man named or it's more than one person, but Justin Smith. And, it's really out there. It's really wild lands.
Is he a resident of Southampton?
No,
He's
Northampton.
Northampton. So, if you recall, when you were the chairperson, the whole point of this committee was to
Right.
be a little bit proactive about
Right.
what are we going to do. So we just started conversing about what to do. One thought was more than one contact has been made with Kestrel. They actually are the ones that informed us about the sale because the realtor let Kestrel know that this land had come up for sale. And they emailed it to, I think Marla sent it to me.
The realtor did. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm not entirely sure if that's exactly what happened or whether Kestrel has it on a radar screen of lands that come on. I don't know exactly how that worked, but because it's so close to the Holyoke lands, one thought was to find out if Holyoke, I went into their website, I went into their water department website, and they do have a sort of a expressed interest in protecting the watershed lands and abutting lands. You know, they sure don't want kind of industry going in up there and involving their watershed lands, I'm sure. So we talked about whether somebody wanted to approach the city of Holyoke, whether directly to the mayor or something, to just, you know, make sure they know about this, to make sure that, you know, to see if they want to get it somehow or bid on it or do something. Now, if they buy it or acquire it in some regard, that is going to take it away from us as far as access, unless something really changes in their policies, because we know that we cannot access the Ty-Carmody lands at this current time.
Yeah. You know, does anybody have a little bit of history about that? I mean, I know that when I first came on the board, a number of people had talked to me about that, and it's a huge amount of land, for one thing, that's preserved. And I guess it was almost like an eminent domain. Like they just came in and said, we want this water. I mean, just like, you know, the Boston did for the flooding of the towns in the middle of the state. So does anybody have the history on that?
I think it was eminent domain, and it was a long time ago, the 50s or so, and people were compensated, but
They were compensated?
yeah.
The town got money for it, not dollars, not today's dollars, but money.
I know that somebody had talked to me about, you know, we should look back to see what the original agreement was. Was it like a 99-year thing? Like, you know, like it struck me strange, you know, just not being familiar with it at the time, that someone could just come over and say, yep, we want it, so it's ours.
Yeah. So we're not the only town to have that happen to. You know that, right? I mean, city of Springfield has watershed lands on the other side of Westfield and Granville. And as you know, Boston took the Quabbin, that whole area of the Quabbin, and on and on and on. But we have a friend, Diana, and I have a friend we hike with who's on the Concom in Holyoke. And I was online with her the other day, and I just said, any chance that Southampton could at least access it for just hiking purposes? And she's going to ask somebody. So I don't know that, and she may not be the most official source, but but in general, what do we had two suggestions, was to follow up with Kestrel, and also do we want to actively approach Holyoke at this point in time about acquiring that land in order to protect it, or what do we want to do from this committee? I just want to come up with a plan.
Could you just remind me the total number of acres?
Well, it's
Unclear.
The assessors, it's about 183, and then 6 acres he bought from Garfinkel's for frontage on Fomer.
Yeah.
But I think they bought it in 2010 for like $150,000, so it's a big premium. But in the real estate ad, it says GPS said, and this I forget, I think like 230 acres or something.
Wow.
There's a
38.
yeah.
Yeah.
It borders Huntington.
No, it borders Montgomery.
Well, the assessor's maps say Huntington.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a border with them. Yeah.
Okay. So we will start with following up with Kestrel. And I emailed them initially, and I also, Diana emailed them, but I will follow up on that myself, just to say what's going on, if Mark will give me an update on whether they have a position on that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be good to get Kestrel first and find out what they're thinking, assuming this isn't going to sell so super quickly. Just looking up, the dam itself was built back in '57, so it goes back quite a ways.
Yeah.
Rini, Martha has a copy of the agreement with the city of Holyoke, and I think it was the mid 40s,
Oh,
about the payments and how much water Southampton can get, which we're not using right now. It's really an interesting document.
yeah, I bet it is. I'll get a copy of it then. And I was told by the water department that the reason why we're not doing it is because it had to do with like, it was easier to just cut a deal with Easthampton for backup water than the amount of money it would have cost to go and get it through the Tycomedy Reservoir.
I think we'd have to build a treatment plant.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah,
Millions of dollars.
right. So that's why the backup became Easthampton instead of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So this will stay on the agenda for a
Yeah.
while. So far, it's just on the market. So this is the idea that we're going to, keep it on our radar screen. The
Well,
other,
Sorry, just to say that, and we certainly do have contacts with the mayor of Holyoke too. So as soon as we can figure out Kestrel, we ought to be able to push that as well.
We do? Who does?
Well, I
mean
mean,
it-
the guy running for
Alex.
state senate. So various of us have met him from the Democratic committee.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't
Sti-
have his home phone number or anything.
Well, I'm sure
I have,
Janet does.
I have his contact information. I don't
Yeah.
mind after you talk to Kestrel, I won't mind reaching out to him.
Okay,
well, you might be a very good person to do
Yeah.
it in your role in the town here too, Rini. So, and you work in the city of Holyoke, so maybe that's helpful too.
So,
There you go.
Okay.
That's a
All
twofer.
right.
well, we
Okay.
just have to get Kestrel to answer because
Yeah,
we
all
haven't
right.
been
Yeah.
able to yet.
I will put that on my to-do list for the next 7 days. Okay, and the other land that, it's a really important piece of land. It's owned by this man named Larry Trinseri, and it abuts, you're shaking your head, Charlie, you know where this
Yeah,
is?
that's Durrell. Yeah, he is an elderly gentleman, as I understand it. And a few years ago, he had a wood cutting plan. And I think I heard from Marla that he's interested in disposing of that property. And again, it's next to Durrell on the side of Pomeroy Mountain.
So everybody know where we're talking about
Yeah.
geographically? Janet, you know where that is? Janet Brown?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Can it be walked from your property? Do you know?
Yes, I'm walking it every day practically with my dog.
You're walking over to Durrell's Path all the way? Really?
Over to Durrell's, yeah.
Oh, I'm coming up to your house to find out where it is because I want to walk it.
All right, fine.
But Janet, does it abut your property?
I would not think so.
Think so. No, I don't believe so. It's up on the hill.
Yeah, mine stops at Walcott.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Normally, for public access, and this was something we talked about 3 years ago on the Conservation Commission, you have to cross the Lord's property to get to the property on the hill. That's how, and I went out and
Lore,
believe-
L-O-H-R, lore.
yeah, and I believe that the Conservation Commission believes that the forest cutting path or road that was used in the past to do some of this tree cutting gives the town access for public entrance onto that property. I'm not sure of that. I got the deed, the Lord's deed, and there's no reference to forest cutting road access across their property. I know these people and I talked to them because I was on their property and they had no problem. But defining that in terms of a legal status, we had the idea 3 years ago to have Copeland and Page come up with the idea, but I don't think that has progressed very far. But that's something you might have to be considered.
You mean get someone to get a written agreement from the Lord?
Yes.
In order
Yeah.
to access this Conservation Commission
Yes,
land?
and that's
That's a good
doable.
question.
They
Yeah.
do it all the time.
Yeah, but you know what I
Private
think?
property, I'm
Go ahead.
sorry.
Go ahead, Charlie, finish up.
Crossing private property, conservation works. There's courses given on the appropriate documents. This has been considered in all the trail development in the state of Massachusetts. They do have documents you know, you only go there during daylight hours. There's no motor vehicles and there's no camping or things parking or anything like that on this property or accessing this property. They are documents that you could sign, the town could sign, and maybe get agreement with the lords.
Well, you know, the Lors, when I was the liaison to the Concom, the Lors actually came into the meeting. We invited them in because there was a lot of back and forth about whether or not their dogs were preventing people from going through and all this sort of thing. The bottom line is they're very, very nice, and they had no problem with people going through. They don't want people crossing and driving up there.
Yeah.
So long as you park, you know, on the street and then walk through their property and then up into the Concom lands, they have no problem with it. And Marla had done a tremendous amount of research to try to find a document from a previous, like many, many years ago. They were down the cellar of Town Hall trying to find something about anything. They had reference to it in a select board meeting, some type of document, and I don't think they ever really found anything. But after they came to the meeting, like I said, I think I've walked up there more than once, and so long as you park and then walk through their property, they're fine with it.
Okay.
But I think there's a bigger question, Rini. Maybe the lawyers are very, very nice and in agreement with that and all of that. But going forward, as we think about what kinds of lands we want to have access to, so often it means crossing private property. Should we be thinking about some kind of template or boilerplate for such an agreement for, you know, somebody says, oh, sure, and then they renege because they forgot or they die or something.
Yeah.
We might want to just think about getting a template on that. I don't know if there's
Maybe
something
Chris
available
was the-
without going to complement page necessarily.
Well, maybe Chris is now the liaison to ComCom. Maybe she can just ask, or Charlie at the next meeting about whether or not there was something that got formalized after the fact. I know that they came, Mr. Lohr actually and his daughter, I think, came to the meeting. And I don't know if there was anything in writing an agreement. But I'm curious to know where this other land that you're referencing is, the logging road or something. Where is that in relation to their property or our Concom property?
It abuts the Concom property, which is like these oddly shaped rectangles, and it's just it doesn't abut the lower land. There's another piece of land between them.
Is that like where the well is?
Gosh.
Little Mountain Road?
Yeah, Mountain Road, yeah.
Yeah,
No.
that's a van. Yeah.
Because if you go up the road, heading up towards the Durrell Pass and you park, right on the left-hand side across from Boyles is a dirt road. It ultimately connects, I think, down to near your place, Janet.
Yeah,
But
I
that's
think
what-
you were talking about Little Mountain Road. It goes from Walcott to Maple.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lowers are at the very top of it.
yes.
Yeah.
I
And
have,
there-
And then
yeah.
That road goes in by the water tower, I think, right, Reedy?
water
Yes, it
tower
does.
right
It's
there.
right by the water tower.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Little Mountain Road.
But is that the way to get to this logging property that you're talking about, or no?
I don't think so, but I think it's, you go further past the lowers up onto the mountain.
Oh, really? And then go off from there?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Okay.
Well,
I think you
did
have
that-
to cross the Lord's property diagonally to get to that large pond that exists on their property
Yeah,
and then go up.
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so I'm looking, April, you got your assessor's maps there?
Yeah, I do.
It's on
Yeah.
map 12.
Yeah, I see it.
It's, hold on, I want to write this down. Yeah, map 12.
Map 12, parcel
10,
parcel 10.
Yeah.
40 acres, and it's actually does not abut the Lors. There's a little tiny space, and there's another owner, at least on this map, which I know you said was, you wrote your little notes in here in 2017. Does anybody know who Stubbs is, 11 acres?
Well, if you,
It's
If you look
20 acres.
What?
I cross Stud's property all frequently. I know where it is on the Oliver map. It's
Okay.
between, yeah, anyway, I know where that is. And it's on one side of that big pond, and the Durrell parcel, and maybe the other parcel is on the other side of the big pond there.
Yeah.
Are you gonna walk your dog tomorrow, Charlie?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Does your
Yeah.
dog need to pee tomorrow?
Yeah, she'll be out. I'm not sure. My dog's is 90 pounds. He's only 1 year old. He's a black lab, English lab. And I don't know if he's going to go with us because he might be too much of a chore with a new stranger there. You.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm a
No
friendly
problem, but
stranger.
I can take you there anytime.
Okay,
Anytime.
well, we do have to do the 12-foot distance. It's important that we keep that 12-foot
Oh, yeah.
separation.
No problem.
And I will wear a mask, and maybe you don't mind wearing a mask just because I'm being really strict about this. But
I have a mask. My relatives gave me a mask.
good. So, and I'm wondering if I could come up tomorrow afternoon. I'm tied up all morning, but can I come up in the
Okay.
afternoon? And I
What
will.
time?
Let's say 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock, fine.
And I don't know if anybody else wants to go because I really want to see it. Diane, are you available tomorrow?
Not sure. I have to look.
All right. Well, you can let me know.
Okay.
Because and I'm looking at the maps and I can see where Charlie's property goes up, and then it crosses the Daish property, and then it connects with this Trinseri property. All right. So now we know a sense of where it is. But here's the question: where do we go from here? Because this gentleman has, I can't say that all old people are wifty, but apparently there's been some concern that he's, I don't know, had some signs of confusion and stuff. And he has a brother-in-law who lives on Strong Road, I think, doesn't he? Live on Strong Road?
Yes, both of them came to the neighborhood outreach. And this all came about because the logger or the forester contacted ComCom recently, within the last month or two, probably about a month ago, and said he was very concerned about Mr. Trinseri, that, he just wasn't even sure in talking to him and all. And so Marla began to think maybe it was time to reach out and to try to talk to him. Yep. But we don't think anything should happen without his brother-in-law there too, or at least other members of the family. And we just thought maybe the first step is just to send a letter to both of them from Open Space. You've expressed interest in preserving your land, and Open Space is interested as well, and maybe we could explore some options. But if the access is an issue, I think we need to iron that out before we would even do that much.
Let's start by getting a little flavor for where the access is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the idea of getting a template for access across private property is a great idea. And Conservation Works and Peace Westover would be readily available to probably email you a version or some versions of that.
Well, that's a good idea. Can you two, Chris Fowles and Charlie, because you're both, connected to the CONCOM at this point, could you research that? And shouldn't it be coming from the CONCOM, the template? That's a question. Should it be coming from CONCOM or Open Space?
I'm not sure CONCOM has it. I haven't heard about anything like that, but I haven't been a member of the committee for some time. I can contact Marla and just ask her, do you have it?
We'll start there then.
There may be access noted in the deed, so I'll see if I can find the deed.
I've got the deed that has the Lord's name on it, and I couldn't find anything. I can maybe scan it and send it to you, April.
I was talking about the Trinseri deed.
Oh, no, I'm talking about the Lord's deed and how to get access to Durrell.
So the Trinseri deed might have a means of accessing the property.
Okay, cool. Very good. Yeah.
Okay, then, all right, so April is going to look into deeds. Charlie's going to find out from Marla, if she's got any kind of a template.
Template, yeah.
Then the next step is if Pete Westover, is that the kind of thing we could just ask him for? We wouldn't have to pay him for that.
I think so. The Concom has, as an aside, has arranged for Conservation Works to put a connecting trail on Clearwater. They
Oh.
just voted to pay $400 to Conservation Works.
Oh, good.
And just to put that trail connector between the sort of the loop on that property. So that's in the works. So I think he's well familiar with Southampton. It's probably very generous. He's been working with us for decades now.
Diana, didn't you talk to him as well regarding,
They helped with the, well, more O'Brien I forget his name. I think Dick O'Brien.
Dick O'Brien and Pete
Yeah.
Westover, yeah.
Yeah, he was very instrumental. I mean, and the Concom paid them too to help with the grant, the technical aspects.
okay, so maybe given these connections and the fact that we've actually engaged them in some work, they would be willing to just share any kind of a template they might have. That would be great.
Well, and guys, there may be something as a template even on the Mass Concom website or on Conservation Works website as well.
Yeah.
Can somebody look into that then to see what's
I'll look on the website. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's great, Chris. Thanks. On ConWorks website. Okay, great. All right, so we've got, this is important. Number one, the lands are important, but number two, the process to do all these kinds of things, to start to be, how to access that. We don't know if Mr. Trinseri wants to sell or donate. We just don't know at this point. We have to be careful if he has any kind of confusion that we're not going at him without his brother-in-law present. We don't want to have any issue with us, you know, approaching somebody who might be confused. But the other thing is, we want to, you know, really kind of be aware that these kinds of things might come up and what we'll have to do about them. Okay, so those are two lands.
Cindy, is Trinseri's land in chapter or not?
According to, yeah, I think it is. I'm not sure, actually. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either.
Pardon me? What'd you say, April?
I'm not sure either. I don't have it noted on my map.
I asked Martha Leary to give me a current list of all chapter lands as well as some other indicators, and she's, I think, working on it. So I don't know, but I'm looking at your map, April. The map you loaned me. You didn't reference that it was in chapter, but you do for a lot of other people here. So there's this man, Mark Frary. Oh, we know who he is, right? Is he brother to Peter Frary? Is Mark Peter's brother? Do we know?
I think so.
I think
So
he is.
he's
I went to school with a Mark Frary. It's probably him.
Was he Dorothy's son? And
Yeah,
Richard's son?
yeah, I think that sounds right.
Okay, so
He's
There
not Dick
is a-
Frary's son?
yeah,
Yeah.
Dick Frary's son.
Dick
Dick
Frary?
is in a nursing home right now and probably
Yeah.
permanently long-term care. There's a parcel immediately west of the Lore property that's 30.25 acres. It's in 61B.
Yep.
And it's owned by Mark Frary.
Yep.
And on the immediate west of that are two other lands that are owned by the Concom. And the one immediately north of that is owned by Concom. So it seems to me that this Frary land, should that ever come out of chapter, that's, and am I right? 61B is recreation. Am I right about that? So we can walk over that as part of the chapter guidelines.
Correct.
Yes, I am right about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
One small thing. I can't remember. I don't know if Peter and Mark are brother. They may be cousins. But anyway, right around in that same property area is another parcel of around 20 acres, I think. It's owned by Wayne Fowles, which is my brother, who I'm trying to convince to get it out of chapter and make it conserved permanently. So, working on it.
Yay.
Yay. Let's see here. Wait a minute. I'm going to look that up. That must be on 11.
Part of the water tower land we gave to the town for that. So it's right on that area, right across from Tommy Boyle's parcel there. I'm thinking it's
I'm
20
gonna
acres.
have to look harder for that one,
Yeah,
Chris. You've got that map too. I loaned you that map.
yeah,
Can you find it? And do you know what part, where it is?
yeah. Let me look for it just a minute. I'll go get, while you're talking, I'll go find it.
Okay,
Hang
So-
on, I might have it faster.
I think Frank Wayne's kid still owns some property there too.
who does? Frank Wayne?
Frank Wayne,
Yes,
Chris Wayne, his brother.
Wayne, yeah.
yes.
Find it.
Okay, it's
boy.
map 18.
Say
Right
that
by the water tower. there.
Parcel 34 is the Fowles property.
In which map is that?
18.
Oh, 18, okay.
And the Wayne estate does have 16 acres on parcel 20. I need new eyes. 25. There are two parcels. They're under 61. The Wayne estate, parcel 27.
I see
So
that.
that's
What I don't see is, oh, there's Wayne Falls. Okay.
Parcel 34, I think.
Parcel 34, yeah.
yeah.
I think Cindy and I watched the open space webinar yesterday. I think maybe some other people did too. And one thing I think top of the line in things that they emphasized for prioritization was contiguity. So, I mean, there's so much to look at and all, but that might help guide us if we knew that it abutted, already conserved land.
Well, according to,
Those two, the Wayne estate, the ones on Little Mountain that are still owned by the Waynes, as far as I know, abut the town of Southampton
yep,
water, and so does Wayne Fowles property.
Right.
Okay, all right.
And my brother Wayne's property, not to be confused with the Wayne estate.
Right.
Fowles' property abuts Merritt's, which is under APR.
Oh, I see.
Right.
Yeah.
there
Okay.
was a lot of continuity
So
there.
that was all my grandfather's property at one point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Going
Wow.
farther over, I think somewhere near the Wayne estate property, if I'm not mistaken, there's some property owned by the O'Connors.
Yes,
And they were also at the open space outreach meetings we had.
You're correct.
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
So there's a whole bunch of potential, contiguous lands there. Would be an incredible space to really conserve.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Totally
Well,
agree.
One of the aspects of that webinar had to do with some kind of federal grant, I think, but or maybe it's a state, but 500 acres, and they said, that's the minimum, and they said it's a really valuable resource. It just seemed a little daunting to try to even.
But I was on that webinar, Diana, and they did say 500 acres, but they said they don't have to be connected.
No, they don't. No.
Yeah.
So we
So
could
for
do it all in
example-
one big swoop.
Yeah, well, if all of this was, I don't know. We know that the O'Connors did come to the neighborhood outreach.
And they
And-
connected with Kestrel.
That's right,
But we
And
don't
if-
know any details about that. It's all hush hush.
right. The Wayne Estate, which is parcel 25, 16 acres, that's completely landlocked. There's a second one too. That's completely landlocked as far as access and developability or anything. So,
Right.
Well, it's landlocked until it's not. That's the way I look at it.
well, you're right. Okay. All right. So all of this should go on this Excel sheet. And Janet, I will be giving it to you for update, if you don't mind.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So we are making some progress on this. I will put all these lands that are all around the water tower and around these other lands, including the Trinseri land. I will put them all on that Excel sheet. And what I'd really like you to do is to be thinking of other lands that are sort of immediate interest. Diana brought up the fact that the Bob Hendrick land, which is abutting the Clearwater land, that should go on this sheet. We don't know the status of that, so that's going to go on this sheet. If you know of others that might be eventually somebody that we want to make sure and have on our radar screen in a very big way, that should go on this sheet as well. And we will keep doing this, keep working on it as we go through. It's already 7 o'clock now. I mean, we can keep going. I do want to ask if there's any other old business that anybody wants to bring up that from past meetings. Anything in mind?
I'd like to say two things. I think the listing of properties that Janet developed is great, perfect. But I'd like to see also maybe the parcel number coming off of, just to make sure I understand where those parcels are, go to Mass GIS and just take the 2-digit number, identifying the parcel on that map, so that it won't be, I just don't maybe know exactly where that property is.
Will you do that, Charlie? If you take the Excel sheet and you have the assessor's parcel.
Yeah, I can do it. All right.
And then
should keep my mouth shut.
I want to be good at delegation. I don't want to slack off on
And
that.
the other thing I wanted to mention, and I think one of the open space centerpieces for this town is the Greenway. And April, if you remember, on Coleman Road, there was some property that seemed to be ideal for a parking area that was available because of some environmental restriction that we didn't think it was going to be selling. And there was some property around Gun Road that someone had forfeited. It was available because no taxes have been paid, and it would have been good for the Greenway for any construction site and storage of materials eventually. So just the general concept of the Greenway and what properties that project, when it gets implemented, might need. That's the suggestion I'm making to think about.
Do you know, can you identify those parcels somehow with either Mass GIS or with looking at the assessor's maps?
Okay, I think I can, but I think I discussed them with April. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
April?
the barn, yes, the barn property on Coleman Road has been purchased. The town is their opportunity on that one.
Okay.
So a builder family bought that on Coleman, and the other one, I'm not exactly sure what's happened to that on Gun Road. That's a landlocked piece, I think. Yeah. But I'd have to look that one up again.
Yeah. But again, just the Greenway, knowing exactly what their needs might be in the future, and property that could be, again, parking might be an issue, especially in the Easthampton, Southampton area.
That's right.
Did we ask them to come to a meeting? The fellow came once, Fergal, and maybe come again and just say, think about this or that property.
Yeah, that might be good to get an update of what the status of the project is, and tell them that we're available to, supplement whatever property they have there with additions, because I know when they build the Greenway, they're going to need sites to store equipment, preferably adjacent to the parcel itself.
Okay, so you're talking about the chairperson of the Greenway right now? That's who you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, that's Paul Fergal. He's on the planning board with me. He's on a couple of committees with me. And I will email him and I will invite him, but I also will just ask him if he has him in mind, if he can't make a meeting, okay?
Okay.
I know one of the things that they were waiting for was to see whether statewide, if there were funds that were available that could be used towards the Greenway.
Yeah.
Well, very specifically, I think they're looking for legislation to allow CPA funds to be used. for acquisition of land or in leasing of land.
Well,
Rail
to
bed.
purchase the rail bed itself, I think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's like a 100-year lease kind of thing, isn't it?
Right.
Isn't it?
Which is why the CPC money can't be used right now until the legislation changes.
Right.
So that's what's been the holdup for right now, but.
Okay,
Okay.
that'll take a generation. No, sorry.
There was, before that, there was another, supposedly $1 million available. And so it just keeps running up against snags, but I think that's a very good idea to have him chime in.
Okay, I
Yeah.
will. All right, any other old business? Okay, and any other mention of land specific? I know Rini, do you know the status of what's going on with Clearwater and the encroachment by Hoyok Beagle Club? Do you know what's going on with that?
I know that last I had heard, I had asked a couple different times, and then I think, he definitely sent a letter out to them. He actually ended up hearing back from them. It took a while. And supposedly they had an upcoming meeting and they were going to discuss that. So I don't hear the update. I will send an email to Ed and ask that be on the next agenda.
Okay,
I think
Excellent.
the only thing I had heard was that maybe the Beagle Club wanted the area flagged in terms of where they needed to move their fence back. They weren't sure what we were talking about, I think is what I heard.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. But wasn't that part of the process of purchasing the land was to sort of map
I
out?
would have thought that was more clear.
boundaries?
Yeah, I would have thought that was more clear with Kestrel, but I don't know.
Otherwise,
I
I
gotta-
would even know that their fence was on the property.
Yeah.
exactly. When that was surveyed, and the blazes are a beautiful lavender. They're just a lovely color lavender on the blazes on that property. And I've been on there a lot, and before everything starts budding out, which is happening this week, and the leaves come in, I've been looking into on the other side of the fence where the Beagle Club is, at least on that section where I can walk, and I cannot see any blazes on the opposite side of that fence. So I don't know where it's encroaching either. I don't know whether we need to go back to the actual survey and see what they see. Okay. All right.
I don't know that these surveyors would have been able to go over the fence and put the blazes over there.
But is there probably a survey document of some kind where they've got,
Yeah,
little
I
marks
think
or
so,
something
yeah.
that,
Yeah. And what
Maybe-
could they have done besides like shoot the paint over there or something?
where is the survey document? Is that something that's in the Concom files?
Maybe so. Yeah.
Can somebody look into that with Concom to see if they've got the survey document?
Yeah, I can check with Marla.
That would be good. Just
You
to
might,
see
you
if
might
there's any
also
kind
just
of,
as a double check, since you're on committees too with Brittany Taylor, just check in with her because she does a lot of horseback riding out there too, and she might have a better idea if there are any blazes over there, and she might know more about where that fence is from the Beagle Club too. I'm not sure, but
okay. All right, well, if you see Brittany, that'd be great. And if somebody could just check into that with Concom, that'd be great. We just found out that they brought in a new member who actually is going to be Diana's next door neighbor.
She is
And
my next door neighbor. She already is.
so that's cool.
Yep.
Okay, moving on, new business. So Diana mentioned that there's been these webinars sponsored by the Mass Open Space Conference that they're all free. They're also all online after they're completed, which I'm going to email you the two, actually three, the two that I've attended and one that you attended, Diana, which had to do with the MVP. And one of them that I attended had to do with land acquisition, and another one had to do with creating open space committees and keeping them running. And if it's voluntary if you want to look at them, but they did have some really good stuff. Did anybody who attended want to make any comments on that? Charlie, you
Yes, I enjoyed, especially the guy from Princeton, and I printed out his areas of emphasis for his OSC. And the thing that impressed me was, do we as a group have a listing, and I used to have something like this years ago, of the various options people have for land conservation. Do we have that? Do we have the options in a listing such that we can review it with people and review it with individuals like myself?
We don't have it in one document.
Well, we have a booklet from the fellow Catanzaro at UMass who was behind the neighborhood outreach thing. He puts out this thing called Your Land, Your Legacy. And then from the OSC's point of view, their land, their legacy. And it does kind of like spell it out, but it's complicated, you know. It's not like A, B, and C. It's more, you know.
I had something that was like A, B, C, and D, at least for communications. But in that document, is it accessible?
Yeah.
Can we?
Let me think. I wonder if you go to masswoods.org, if it wouldn't be on there.
Mass Woods?
Mass Woods. That's their website, I think.
Okay.
But I'll try to find it too, and they're very happy to send them out, I think. And
okay,
yeah.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And generally speaking, I got my takeaway from specifically from the one about creating open space committees and maintaining open space committees is that they are what you make them. Some towns, they have a really close alignment with the Concom, and other towns it's a slightly different relationship. There's some of the open space committees aggressively put together volunteer groups. Others, you know, utilize some other aspect to get volunteers involved. This guy from Princeton was impressive. He also was an IT guy, and he was doing the website for them. And wouldn't I love him to move to Southampton, because he had a lot of good ideas and he was very well spoken. So I think my feeling is we just keep plugging along and keep this committee going, and maybe over time add a few people to the committee who are experts in particular areas and that can help us. And I'm really hopeful that this Friends of Open Space thing can take off too. And I will forward that email that Joy Piper sent out. She's on the Conservation Commission, about getting volunteers involved with just walking on the lands and seeing if there's any fallen trees or anything like that, and letting Conservation Commission know about that. We all got that email the other day. Did anybody else? Go ahead,
excuse
Charlie.
me. No, do we have any document about volunteers on town property? And if they get into an accident, is there some restrictions there?
They have to sign a hold harmless agreement.
Okay.
And that was in the email from Joy.
Okay.
And including a link. And there's a book on how to be a volunteer. She included that, I think, as a link. Did anybody get that besides me? Who got that?
I did.
I did. This is Janet. I got it, and I just wanted to, I was going to bring that up if you didn't. I volunteered to join a group rather than going out by myself, and she said she would be working on that in the next couple of weeks of organizing people who wanted to go out on the group. And yes, you do have to sign the paper if you haven't already, absolving the committee of any problems like that. But no, I think that she will be working on groups if you don't want to go by yourself and do work, and that is something she's thinking about.
Yeah, I think one thing, I was at the Concom meeting. I don't have a copy of either of those documents, but we did talk about them at Concom. But then there was hesitancy about really getting too excited about groups, given our current policy of physical distancing. So maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, but not immediate groups, and if so, very, very small groups. I mean, more like the twos and threes, not, giant groups of people. So the idea was that if anybody is out walking, just kind of bring a pair of, clippers with you, because all the multiflora rows and all that stuff is just going to keep on growing, and you can see it better now before it gets out there.
Right, and make notes of it and send it to Joy if you do see something that needs a little more work.
But I think it was being a little bit cautious about really getting groups going per se now.
Yep,
I understand.
Okay, a couple things about that. First of all, if you are on a board or committee of the town, you are covered under the town's hold harmless agreement. So that covers me, that covers, I think, people on this call. if you go out. It's only people that are not on a board or committee. That's because my husband and son signed one last year because we went out and did some chainsawing over at Wolf Hill Sanctuary. The other thing about multiflora rose, and I remember this because last year, before we had the all-town hike on Wolf Hill Sanctuary, which a lot of you went on, we had Molly Hale go with us. Remember, she was the naturalist, and she told us that if you see multiflora rose and it's small, it's really small, it's not some big monster plant, but it's kind of teeny weeny, you can pull it out by the roots and turn it upside down and hang it on a branch, and that's all you got to do. You don't have to do anything else, and therefore you'll, at least limit the, the growth of that particular plant. So you can't do it if it's too deep and too extensive, but you can if it's teeny weeny.
I would like to say one thing about the webinars we watched, a couple of things. I don't think we do a good enough job of community outreach and information. For instance, that thing that Joyce sent out, half of those places, no one would know where they are, how to get to them, or where to park, or anything. There are no signs. So I think that's a problem. And I also think we need to offer like regular small things that people like, a monthly walk or something on those places that nobody knows about.
Yeah. That's a good point.
I agree.
Just one thing that was brought up at one point was the lack of signage in certain areas. We keep talking a bit at Concom about the Alice Brown area over on Pleasant Street.
Right.
I mean, I practically live next door and I have no idea how to get into it myself. So one of the things that I think Virginia Ahart had said at one point in time was that CPC has given money to get signs done at various areas. And so I don't know if that's in Randall's purview or who has to get them done, but there's money that has been made available to get some better signage at some of these places, I think.
Yeah.
Yes, there's been good signage, but CPC funded signs on the Manhan Meadows area, in the Whittemore area, and on the Howland property also, next to the Greenway Strip. And usually the Concom approaches the CPC for that. Now, the Alice Brown, there's no parking there. You almost have to park next to Pleasant Street, just pull over. And there's a walkway going up. There's a few benches up there also. And it's no street signage whatsoever, but that could be remedied via that process with the Concom going to CPC and getting the money. They haven't done it for the Alice Brown yet.
For the Clearwater Woodland, it was, they didn't go to CPC for that. That was part of the funds that were used for the project, and actually Randall helped only by putting the sign up. But that sign was paid for out of the funds for the project, for the purchase.
Okay.
Well, that's what I just feel. Again and again, we hear, like Cindy and I at the Celebrate Southampton, people would say, oh, I didn't know that was there, or I didn't know you could do that. We just somehow have to get people engaged, I think, with our offerings.
I think that's a great idea, Diane. And maybe a suggestion, I don't know if in terms of like our email or something out on our community, on the open space place on the town website or on the community website, but even just once a month or once every couple of weeks, just to feature one of our conservation areas in town and give a little paragraph blurb about its history and why it's a conservation area. I mean, just something to educate the town a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I will tell you. Go ahead, Charlie. Go ahead.
We also have maps, as you probably were coming into the front door of the town hall. We have developed maps, and there is a description of the material of the property in the beginning of each one of those maps, and those have been transferred to the Concom's website also.
Yeah.
So there's information available that could be abstracted and presented new.
Yeah, yeah.
But I want to point out, we are still in our pandemic crisis.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there are conserved lands that are owned by the trustees, for example, and DCR that have closed their properties altogether during this. They don't want people on them just because the weather's getting lovely, and on beautiful days a month ago, hundreds of cars were lining up in some of these properties. And consequently, I think we should be prepping all of this and working in this direction, but I don't think we should launch it quite yet until we know that there's a green light to start getting out and doing more things and mingling. I think it would be a mistake. I don't know how the rest of you feel about that. Be
That
cautious
seems
about.
reasonable. Yeah.
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 I mean, it is going to pass. It may take a while, but it's going to pass. All right, so let's keep talking about that. I will bring up this outreach concept with Dave Sullivan when he calls me, and he might call me any minute now. So I really want to move to adjournment. When would you like to meet next? And we will be meeting by Zoom. So what do you guys think?
Cindy, one last quick question. Is there one of those webinars, open space webinars this Saturday, or am I got it wrong on my calendar?
Wait a sec, let me look on my calendar. No, I don't think so, not Saturday.
There was something that was going to be up at Greenfield College.
Oh, it was canceled.
Right, but I thought it
That
was
was
going to be
the,
I thought it was going to be online, no? Okay.
actually it was scheduled for the 25th. And I think that these webinars replaced it.
Okay. Well, if you
That
send
was
the
the whole
link
thing.
around to the webinars, that'd be great. Thanks.
Yep, I will. I'll send it out to all of you. Let me write that down. Link to webinars. Okay. And so when do you want to meet next? Today is the 16th. It's a Thursday. Anything good? We're not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty open.
Could I
When we
recommend 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Anyone got any suggestions?
3.
3 weeks, that's the 7th of May. It's a Thursday. Is that good for everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I won't show up on the 6th.
Why not?
Cindy, not the 6th. I just made a mistake yesterday and
Oh,
showed
yeah.
up 4 hours early.
He
So
called me.
anyway,
He called me at 6 o'clock yesterday and said he couldn't get on the meeting. Okay, so it's May 7th. That's okay, Charlie, because I'm a human being too. I screw up all the time. 6 o'clock, and it'll be a Zoom meeting, and I'll post it on the town website. And anything else? Any other business?
so we're going to meet here at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Is that right?
You and I are going to meet, and if I can't, give me your cell phone number really quickly, Charlie.
413-320-6569.
6569. Okay, I'm 320-1312. So if you, I don't know if my name will show up if I call you. Don't ignore me.
12. Again, the number was 320-1212.
1312.
1312.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Can I make a public service announcement, Cindy?
Absolutely.
The following week after our meeting on the 12th is the caucus in town, and that's 7 to 9 p.m. It'll be held in the event that the town is open again, but that's the date right now for nominating people from the floor.
Right.
Okay, so I'm hoping we need to have a minimum number of registered voters, so I'm hoping people can go.
What's the backup
May the
plan?
19th.
We don't have a backup date yet. We just announced this last Tuesday night at the select board meeting.
All right, so that's the Tuesday, the 12th.
From
7
7
to
to 9
9.
p.m. is the caucus for nominations from the floor for elected positions in town.
You need to be nominated, right?
I would
Rini?
love to be nominated
Okay, because
because they never changed the date of getting the signatures, and I wasn't about to go around town eliciting signatures in the middle of a pandemic. So I did not get the signatures to be on the ballot for select board. So I would very much appreciate to be nominated at the caucus, and I would love your support.
Good. And so what we don't know is a backup plan if the town hall's still closed. We just
Right,
don't know.
yeah, that will have to, we'll be changing that as it gets closer if that happens. Originally, the caucus was supposed to be the 5th and we just changed it last night to the 12th.
Okay,
So that, just so you know, the select board meeting on that particular week will be on Thursday, the 14th. So actually, I'm kind of glad we're meeting on the 7th.
okay, excellent. Any other announcements of any kind, anybody? Nope, okay.
Nope.
So we got the next meeting, and do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Everybody agree? All in
Yep.
favor?
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you too.
Have
Thanks,
to-
Cindy.
Everybody.
Take
You
care.
have to
Bye,
leave the meeting.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Leave
Take
the
care.
meeting. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.